Hello, welcome to Edupedia World Video. Last time we talked about the first attempt of Eastern Roman emperors to restore the ancient Roman Empire territories. It was the Roman Emperor Justinian who first tried to restore the Roman Empire, destroyed by foreign European and Asian nations. During his reign, the Romans waged wars with newly established Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy, the Visigothic kingdom in Spain, and the Vandal kingdom in North Africa. His renowned general Belisarius performed the majority of conquest. The first task of Belisarius was to reclaim North Africa from the Vandals. Romans were successful in performing these tasks, and Belisarius' army conquered the Vandal kingdom. Then, after 20 years of waging wars, Romans prevailed and defeated Ostrogothic kingdom as well, thus reconquering the territories in Italy. Justinian also reconquered other territories of the former Western Roman Empire, such as the territories in modern-day Spain. Justinian and his generals waged wars against Slavic and Hunnish tribes in Balkan, and against Persians in the Caucasus region and the East. It appeared as if the ancient Roman Empire was almost completely restored. However, all war achievements of Justinian were of short breath. The army was exhausted and decimated, the economy and finance were collapsing, while more and more foreign tribes were still invading the defenseless Roman Empire. The Emperor Justinian's conquest was just the last and only partially successful attempt of declining Roman power to take back its territories, which ancient Roman emperors and generals conquered a long time ago. Simply, there were too many enemies of the Eastern Roman Empire. Huns and other Turkic tribes from Eastern Europe and Asia, Slavic tribes, Ostrogoths, Visigoths, and other numerous Germanic tribes, Vandals, Moors, Persians, and so on. We will get back to it in a minute. Beside this old world reconquest, Emperor Justinian was also famous for his code of laws, usually called the Code of Justinian, or Corpus Juris Civilis. It was mostly based on ancient Roman laws and the biblical or the Christian code of laws. The importance of this law is that it makes the foundation of modern law system in most of the countries. Likewise, some of the Christian or biblical laws were incorporated into the Code of Justinian, since Justinian was putting the new Christian religion of the Roman Empire above all else. He made strict laws concerning religion, conversions, and severe punishments for disobedience of the laws. Also, he prohibited every pagan polytheistic custom of ancient times, thus prohibiting even the Olympic Games as a remain of the ancient Greek pagan or non-Christian culture and beliefs. Justinian was known for abolition of the famous Academy of Athens from the same reason. Every remnant of ancient polytheistic religions was surpassed, and its followers were all punished or executed. Nevertheless, the Justinian Empire did not last long. The vast empire could not be defended in the coming centuries, and all the reconquered territories were conquered again by its previous inhabitants, or the new invaders, such as Goths, Persians, Slavs, and Avars. Avars were one of the greatest threats to Eastern Roman Empire, or the so-called Byzantine Empire, during the 6th and the 7th century, after Emperor Justinian's death. Who were the Avars? They were yet another invading tribe originating from Asia and East Europe, though they did not participate in the first wave invasion during the Great Migration period. Avars were a Turkic tribe, just like Attila's Huns before them. They did not differ from them too much in their lifestyle, inhabitants in Pannonia, warlike attitude towards Romans and other surrounding nations. Sometimes Avars were Roman allies, but most of the time they were waging wars against each other. Roman emperors used different nations as their allies against other invading tribes. These alliances were only temporary, since they were defending Eastern Roman Empire borders as long as they were paid and bribed by Roman emperors. As soon as they stopped paying them or the emperor's treasury was empty, all former allies would join other invading tribes and attack the Roman cities. It was the same in the case of these warlike Avars. Their kingdom in Pannonia, which replaced the former Attila's kingdom of Huns, was called the Avar Khaganate, since their ruler had the title Khagan. The Avar Khaganate was a constant threat for Eastern Roman Empire, especially during the 7th century. In 626, Avars allied with Slavic tribes and Persians from Asia. They launched an attack of the Eastern Roman Empire capital city, the Constantinople, in an attempt to destroy the remaining part of the ancient Roman Empire. Since they could easily get to their capital, it was obvious in what sort of dangerous situation Roman Empire was, particularly because of the massive attack from both north and east at the same time. While Avars were attacking from the north and Persians from the east, Slavic tribes were trying to reach Constantinople by sea with their boats. However, the Avar siege of Constantinople was unsuccessful, and the Romans defeated them all. The city of Constantinople had great walls that were almost impossible to break down. In addition, Avars and Slavs did not have the necessary siege machines, but mostly spears and arrows, which were powerless for this kind of conquest. Avars and Slavs were jointly attacking the Eastern Roman Empire. They were allies during some periods and enemies during others. Slavs were another invading tribe from Eastern Europe, though again they did not participate in the first wave invasion on Roman Empire during the Great Migration period. It is possible that some of the Slavic tribes did participate in that migration, but most of them began invading Roman Empire in later period. They are the ancestors of modern-day Slavic nations, such as Russians, Slovenians, Serbs, Polish, and so on. There are historians who believe whatsoever that these Slavs from the Middle Ages were living in the Danube River area, or even the whole Balkan Peninsula area, even during the ancient ages, where South Slavic people live today. In other words, they believe that Slavic tribes had lived in Balkan since most ancient times, and only in later times, when Romans conquered Balkan, did they move to north and east. And then, during and after the Great Migration period in the Middle Ages, they moved from those northern areas and East Europe to Balkan. That event occurred during the 6th and the 7th century. Now, Illyrians and Thracians were the autochthonous ancient people of Balkan area. Some of the modern historians claim that these were the Slavs. That is, the Slavs were known as Illyrians and Thracians during the ancient ages. Although these ancient tribes, especially the Thracians, were described in the same way as Slavic tribes by medieval historians, there is no reliable proof yet that these two ethnic groups were one and the same. All we know with certainty for now is that Slavic tribes migrated from the north of Europe in the 6th century and settled in Balkan area, which was under Roman occupation. the most distant past of Slavic tribes, as well as the most distant past of most of the other European nations, is completely unknown, since we do not possess much of the primary written historical sources about that period. From the same reason, the origin and identity of ancient Balkan tribes of Illyrians, Macedonians, Thracians, and others is equally unknown. We mostly possess writings of ancient and medieval Roman and Greek historians. Therefore, it is very difficult to find out the truth about the origin and most ancient history of both Slavic and many other nations of the world. Only genetics could help historians reveal the truth about it, but the problem is that genetic research's results are often unclear or misinterpreted by historians. Having said that, we may now proceed with the story about medieval period of Slavic history. So the Slavic tribes conquered a great part of Balkan. Sometimes they were attacking together with Goths, Avars, and other tribes, and sometimes they were attacking Romans all by themselves. They settled in all areas of Balkan Peninsula where South Slavic people live today, in modern-day Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Macedonia. There are preserved historical reports for the arrival of Serbs, Croats, and Bulgarians. Serbs and Croats arrived together in the 7th century, during the reign of another famous Roman or Byzantine emperor, Heraclius, according to texts written by Roman Emperor Constantine VII, or Pergamentus, who lived in the 10th century. We mention this because this is the only historical document that tells us about the arrival of Croats and Serbs, and because it is proven to be a falsified document. In other words, this document, called De Administrando Imperio in Latin, cannot be trusted and considered a reliable historical source, although it is the only one mentioning the earliest known period of South Slavic history. We will say more about medieval and all other falsified historical documents at the end of the lecture series about the Middle Ages, because it is very important to know the truth about world history, and that a great part of history we learn from school books is partially falsified. Besides Serbs and Croats, who came to the Balkan lands, in which they mostly live today, Bulgarians were another tribe that settled in Balkan, east of them, in modern-day Bulgaria. It was named after them, of course. The specific thing about Bulgarians is that they were originally not a Slavic tribe, but a Turkic one, just like the Huns, Avars, and other Turkic and Mongol tribes of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. You have already noticed that Turkic and Mongol tribes have lived in Central Asia since most ancient times. Central Asia is their homeland, and they were usually called Scythians in ancient ages by Greek and Roman historians, although the name Scythian was applied to other nations as well. It was a kind of geographic term, not exclusively an ethnic one. It was used even for Slavic tribes, as well as for Huns, Avars, and even Iranian tribes. However, the real, original Scythians were probably Turkic and Mongol tribes, despite the fact that majority of modern historians believe Scythians were Iranian tribes. Now back to Bulgarians. The Bulgarian tribe was also invading the Roman Empire during the 6th century, and probably even earlier, along the invasion waves of Huns and other tribes. They came to that area from Caucasus region, and in the 7th century they settled in East Balkan region, where Bulgaria lies now. Their ruler, who led them to Balkan, was Khan Asparuh. The Bulgarian ruler's title was Khan, as in the case of other Mongol and Turkic tribes. The Bulgarian Turkic ruling class was eventually assimilated by Slavic majority, and all that was left of Bulgarians was their name. Both medieval and modern-day Bulgarians were and are a Slavic nation. All of these medieval tribes and nations, Goths, Slavs, Persians, and others, were still invading the Roman Empire, that is, the Eastern Roman Empire, during the 5th, 6th, and the 7th century. Justinian's reconquered territories were again under the rule of foreign nations, and the Eastern Roman Empire was reduced to western part of Asia Minor and Balkan Peninsula, or the modern-day Greece. Its power was slowly declining. We shall continue the story about the events from the 7th century and the coming centuries in our next lesson. Thank you for watching Edupedia World Video.